Hello. Welcome to my channel, Texas Gal Treasures. My name is Margaret, and in today's video, I'm going to share with you 5 mistakes to avoid when reselling jewelry on eBay or Etsy or Poshmark, Mercari, wherever you happen to sell jewelry. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Margaret. I have been selling online for over 10 years and been doing YouTube talking about thrifting and reselling I just got a little 10-year notification. So I thought it'd been a little longer, but 10 years. So yay for that. And one of the things that I like to sell is jewelry. I love doing unboxings, love selling jewelry. I was lucky enough to come in with a little bit of knowledge when I first started because my grandmother has really good taste in jewelry. And so she taught me a lot, but there was definitely a lot to learn as I continued my journey into reselling jewelry. There's always something new to learn. And I am here today to share with you 5 tips or mistakes rather, that I would hope you could avoid. And even if you've been selling for a long time, you might pick up some new tips from this video. And I am doing this live because I know that some of my friends of the channel that also sell jewelry might have some other tips that they throw into the chat, and I can share those out with you guys, because while I know some things, I don't know all the things. And that is, there's a world of knowledge out there. And if you're interested, I have a Facebook group called Texas Gals Jewelry Lovers, where if you're stumped on something, you can go there. It's a great group. We have very strict rules about not being nasty or ugly, and that nobody knows all the things, and yeah, et cetera, et cetera. So you're free to ask questions there in the group, and make sure it's, if you're stumbling over, like, I don't know what this is, what's my next step, right? Okie dokie. So hello in the chat. If you're here, just say, hey, hello. So the first mistake that I would advise you to check into, which it can be a big part of the learning curve, is not identifying the authenticity or materials that something is made of. And this, especially when you're new, can be very tricky, but there are definitely ways to make sure that you're listing something accurately. So if you've got for example, let's say you've got a ring, and this ring is marked 925, and you just automatically assume it's silver, and you put in your listing, this is a 925 silver ring, but you don't test it, and then the buyer gets it, and maybe it's not really silver, because, as I was told by a jeweler, stamps are cheap. And so nowadays there are many ways to verify what the material is that you're selling. And I just realized I forgot to open my screen share for what I was going to share. Oh, here we go. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Let's see if I can do this without. I'm going to have to take some screenshots, because now it's wanting me to restart if I do this. I'm going to take a screenshot. So thank y'all for bearing with me real quick so that I can just show you some pictures. So as I was saying, the stamps are really cheap. So you might get a ring that says it's silver, but it's not silver. And so one of the things you can do is, I have a magnet. That's a quick test to see, like, if it sticks to the magnet, chances are likely it's not sterling silver, as it may be marked. But again, there are sometimes, I have to caveat that, because somebody will say sometimes it is, but usually, most of the time, no. Same thing with gold. It might be marked gold, but then it ends up not being gold. So having a good magnet that you can test with is really important. Let's see if it's going to let me. It wouldn't let me screen share on my computer. So let me see if it'll let me do slides. Here we go. Let's see. Oh, is it not? Ooh, okay. Plan B. How can we do this? Maybe it'll let me show it this way. Let me start with this. Is it going to let me? Oh, yay. Okay. All right. Look at this. We solved the problem along the way. So another thing another part of this, not just with gold and silver, but let's say you're finding bracelets that look something like this, or jewelry that looks like this. Now, this is Bakelite. Well, some of this is Bakelite. And if you're selling Bakelite, it's very highly collectible, right? And if you don't know what you're looking at is a really valuable piece of Bakelite jewelry, you might undersell it and not give yourself all the profits that you could be coming your way, right? And I've done a few videos on testing Bakelite, and I'll talk a little more about that here in just a second. But it's really easy to test for. And if you're not sure, then like I said, drop a picture over in the group, say, hey, I found this bracelet. I'm pretty sure it's vintage. And I want to make sure, what do I need to do to find out if it's Bakelite? And another thing about Bakelite is, like, there's one here. It looks like tortoiseshell, and it's called root beer Bakelite. And that's another, like, when you're talking about making sure you're listing things accurately, it can go the opposite way. So this way, it's like, if you don't know it's Bakelite, you might be cutting money away from yourself. Or if you've got something like, so tortoiseshell looks a lot like root beer Bakelite. There are different properties. It smells differently if you know the test to do, and it is weighted, it'll feel different, but it can look really similar. So if you have actual tortoiseshell, that can get you banned if you try to sell it. And the same thing goes for ivory. So let's say you've got a piece of ivory jewelry and you don't know that it's ivory. And again, I've done videos on how to tell, but maybe you think, oh, it's bone, or it's, maybe just heavy plastic, and you really just don't know. And you try to sell it on eBay and somebody flags you, or they catch it, and you could get, suspended or banned on eBay for trying to sell ivory. So it's really important to know what you're selling. And again, I don't say this to like scare anybody at all, but take it one piece at a time. And this is how you learn. You've got a piece of jewelry and you're like, this is suspicious. Take the time to do the research, especially if you think it's something worth money or worth, not getting kicked off, for sure. Let's see. Meeble says, I need to learn how to test for Bakelite. I have a big bag of stuff I think might be Bakelite. I'll have to watch your video on how to test for it. Oh, thank you so much. So this is a good time to share this other. Let's see if it'll let me share again. Okay, do I take this one out? How do I do this? Or will it let me? Okay, let me stop this one and let me screen share. So I've got a link down below, and it's a link to, oh dear, have I jumped away from it? Did it share it? Here we go. Okay. It's a link to an Amazon page that has a lot of the jewelry tools that I use. And so listen to me mumble. So like Simichrome polish right here. This is what I use for testing Bakelite. I didn't mean to click it. Go back. So the Simichrome polish is something I use to test the Bakelite. Here's, one of the wands. Do I have here's my telescoping wand that I use. And as far as silver goes, silver and gold, there's a testing kit here that I use that you can test for silver and gold at home. And then the black light, if you've got amber and you're wanting to make sure like the amber isn't plastic, because again, amber is like super lightweight. And then there are certain kind of plastics that fluoresce too. So if you have that UV light and you shine it on amber, again, I've been doing this for 10 years, so I've got a video on it. I probably should redo some of them because they're so old. But if you shine it, it'll fluoresce, like it'll glow. And so that's cool. So there's that down below as well, if you want to do that. So still working on number one. So another thing that I've had happen, and not with me, but I've actually bought from somebody who was sharing a pair of earrings. One, I loved the earrings. They were so pretty. I should have brought them down for this, but they're like, you could tell that they were older and they had really pretty green, maybe little jade stones, and they really looked like high quality, but the marks that were there just looked like little scratchy marks. The person that I bought them from couldn't tell what the marks were. So they were just like, okay. And I think she sold them to me for $35, and I ended up sending her more money. She was somebody that was in one of the jewelry groups, one of my jewelry groups. I wonder if I can share more than one at a time. No, it won't let me. But it looked something kind of like this. Let me make it bigger. So the marks were like kind of like that. right? And you couldn't really make out what they were. And yeah. So what they ended up being were hallmarks they were like in Arabic or in from another country. So, different countries have different marks for gold and silver jewelry. Ours, we've got the 925 for the silver. We've got it's pretty cut and dry, 14K, 18K, what have you. And in other countries, they have other marks. And in different time periods, they were also different. So depending on the purity of the gold. So I was going to show you a couple more. And this was actually one of my top sales that I made was from a pair of, I'm trying to pull up the other screen for you, was a pair of cufflinks that I bought at a thrift store. And the cufflinks had British hallmarks on them. And they ended up I sold them to the gold guy for like $400+. So if you see really nice, I mean, these, you can tell they look really nice looking marks. Hang on, let me show you some other ones. I had this like all squared away, but it wanted me to restart my computer, which is not going to happen right now. Where are the other hallmarks I was going to show you? And I keep sucking my teeth too. Here, let's look at this one. So no, that's not the same one. But anyway, when you're looking at gold hallmarks, there'll be like an anchor and a letter and like a lion or something like that. And all of those little stamps have to do with the year and where it was made and all of these and like the gold content. So if you see marks that maybe you don't recognize, don't just automatically think, oh, I don't know, maybe it's just nothing, because it might actually be just hallmarks from another country. So don't make that mistake. Yeah. All right. And I showed you having all the tools, and some of the tools I didn't get straight away. A loop and a magnet, that's pretty easy. And then if you've got somebody either that has the acid testing kit, or I have a Presidium gem tester, and those can be pricey, but they are worth it if you end up selling jewelry a lot, because it can let you know like if a stone in a ring is what kind of stone it is. So when you're listing, that you can put it accurately. And then until I had that, I had a little diamond one, so I could at least catch diamonds, and it wasn't as expensive. It was like $35 or something. And that way I could at least catch diamonds with the little diamond tester. But you could always take it to a pawn shop or a place that buys jewelry and have them test it. I don't know if they might charge a fee. Some places do, some places don't. So let's see. I'm going to come back to that, Jojo. What's the best way to sell gold-filled jewelry? I think just listing it as gold-filled. At the moment, I just have all my gold-filled stuff and a lot of my silver stuff, and just kind of all, because I struggle selling it, honestly, because I feel like a dragon with like sitting on my hoard of like treasures. And so unless it's a piece of jewelry that I'm like, I don't really think I want this, I just I'm like Smaug, like waiting for the Hobbit to come in and try to steal my jewelry. Right? So yeah. And the answer, Jojo, is yes. I have some videos. She's asking about the semaglutide. Yeah, I am still, I moved it. I'll have to leave a comment later for that. Yeah. Okay. So the next mistake that you don't want to make is ignoring brand names or maker's marks on jewelry. So I just did a video yesterday talking about, jewelry doesn't have to have a mark to sell well. Sometimes it's just the style of the jewelry, but not knowing what a jewelry piece is can also hurt it. So like these earrings, I'm wearing these. I was going to sell these. These are Kendra Scott earrings. And when I got these, I almost thought that because they do a lot of a lot of people knock off Kendra Scott. So, but when I was looking at these, I was like, I don't know, these really look like Kendra Scott, and she uses real like gemstones in there. And but normally Kendra Scott earrings have the name along the edge, and these don't. And so I was like, dang, these are really good reproductions or like knockoffs. They're really good. And then when I was sharing them, someone said, no, no, no. Sometimes they don't have the name on them. And was sharing like she bought some at the store and they didn't have the name, because I was like, no, these really have the stones in them. And so I looked it up, and sure enough, these really are Kendra Scott earrings. So they can go for a lot more. Another way to do that would take them into the store and say, hey, I think these are legitimately Kendra Scott earrings. So if I was just listing them because of what they looked like, I might not get as much money from them. And then I was going to share as well that when you pick up jewelry, and I was going to show you a couple examples. Let's say, and now you're not always going to find a Tiffany bracelet, and definitely might not find a Tiffany bracelet sitting on a Tiffany envelope that's telling you, hey, I'm Tiffany. But I found this out the hard way. I actually have a Tiffany chain that looks similar to this. And as a seller, I'm like looking it over. And of course, where do I look for the maker's mark? I look around the clasp, right? Because that's generally where you see the maker's mark. So I was looking at this bracelet, and I started like side-eyeing my then boyfriend, like, did he put this like in a Tiffany bag and just like pretend, whatever. I wouldn't say anything, but I started doing a little digging and found out, no, it is a Tiffany bracelet, but the mark was not on the clasp. The mark is on one of the links. So if you have a piece of jewelry and you think, you know what, this feels like quality, it's silver, I look it over super duper carefully, because it might be marked in an area that you're not expecting it. I was not expecting it to be just on a random link. It was like almost completely opposite the clasp. So that was a surprise for me. And I actually just got a Tiffany sterling silver pen at a garage sale. Same deal, like this, I knew it was silver, or at least silver plate, the pen, because it was tarnished. And as I'm like looking it over, I found that it was a Tiffany mark on it. I was like, whoa, all right, even better, right? So check over the piece for marks in other areas. And with higher end stuff like Tiffany, you really do your due diligence, because there's a lot of fakes out there. We'll just put it that way. But there are groups that will help you figure out how the stamp looks. And unfortunately, some places like Tiffany, with Kendra Scott, you could probably walk in and they would tell you if it is or not. But with Tiffany, they will like, oh, we want to send it off to have it authenticated and blah, 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 right? And charge you a bunch of money. So I don't know if it's worth it. Maybe it would be, but maybe not. All right. So let's see. Look, I actually have notes today. So, and if you have, let's see if there's any questions. So it's not quality pieces. And I think with gold filled stuff, I think you can also sell it like to scrap, but I think you get the price if they still do it this way. I think it's more like you won't get gold scrap price. You would get like sterling scrap price for it, because they would have to melt it off. I don't know the process for how you would scrap gold filled stuff, but there are ways for sure. Or maybe lot it up, keep a bunch together, and then maybe there's somebody who wants to buy. But I would find out about the scrap value, because when I do stuff like that, I want to make sure that I don't sell it at least below. I don't want to sell it less than the scrap value. I want to make sure I sell it for more than the scrap metal value. Pardon me. So that I don't, because then I could go sell it myself, right? All right. The third mistake that I see, especially with new sellers, and I wasn't guilty, but as a new seller, was poor photography. So making sure when you're taking pictures of stuff that you're getting all the angles. And luckily nowadays it's a lot easier to insert photos or videos rather. So like an earring like this, if I'm not getting, like if I take a picture of it like that, it just looks like dull gray. But if I really get it in light and I got a little video of it, or maybe like, oh, if I get the light coming through it, you can see like, oh, it's super cool, right? And so having a little video in there showing, or having a flashlight behind it to show like, look how cool this is with the light behind it, and showing all the really cool features, because the pictures really will sell your item. And when I was first starting, and I've done videos where I pick on myself and show like, because I keep all my old, especially on Etsy, because you can go all the way back. On eBay, it's the last 90 days, but on Etsy, you can go all the way back to like my first solds and look at those pictures, descriptions, and I kept them up there, and they're horrible, but it's a great learning tool to go back and see like how far you've come. But I would just start with one area and like, okay, I got to learn how to take better pictures, because that's really what's going to like draw those buyers in, is having those good pictures. Learning how to do titles, descriptions like that, that's not terribly hard, but this, for me anyway, learning to do the pictures early on was such a learning curve. And there weren't as many videos out at the time, I hate to say, like 10 years ago, on how to do product photos like that. And a lot of times people then, they were using like photography equipment, and I'm like, no, again, phones weren't as great back then either, the cameras and the phones. Anyway, so let's see what else on this one, the photography. Yeah, and then, it's in my tips, I do say something about using a light box. I do that sometimes. I have light boxes, like a little pop-up tent. You don't need a big one but if you don't want to do that, it's, especially if it's a super shiny piece where you're having trouble getting a picture of the jewelry without a big glare on it from the camera, right? Or from the lights, I should say. So that would be a time, or finding a way to like diffuse the light a little bit with a sheet or something. You can do it on your own without, because believe me, you can spend as much money as you want to get all the things set up, but then you don't have to. For exhibit A, for me, here's a mic that I have bought, and a little mic doobab. I don't even know what the thing is called. Fancy, but look what I'm using, like a little $10 one off Amazon, because I'm like, I never know if I'm getting the settings right, blah, blah, blah. It's fancy, it's cool. I'll figure it out someday. But you don't have to, you don't have to have all the fancy schmancy stuff. So do I use a mail order? I've never used a mail order one. When I was back in Texas, there was a guy that had a place that I would go to, and he gave me he gave me a pretty good price. And then I haven't actually taken any to sell here in Colorado yet. But again, I'm just sort of like smogging it, dragging over my cord. I'm thinking about it. It makes me happy. So do I ever buy jewelry from Whatnot to resell? I have the intention to, but I end up keeping it for myself. I've bought a few things off of Whatnot, but I don't get on there very much anymore. And I don't really sell on there anymore. At first I was making pretty good money selling on there, but then the last couple times, the amount of time that it took me to get set up and sell and then ship and everything, and then the fees, like I didn't end up making that much money. And I was like, I'm not doing that again. So, but I know that you probably could get some really great deals doing that. So I was finishing up number 4. We're going to come back to number 5, but I see a couple things here. Currently sell only on Poshmark and Mercari. What do you think are the top 2 platforms for selling jewelry? I mean, for me, it's been eBay and Etsy. I shared this yesterday too. Before I moved here to Colorado, I was selling on eBay, Etsy, Poshmark, Mercari, and Facebook Marketplace. And top 2 always were eBay and Etsy, followed by Mercari, then Facebook Marketplace, and then Poshmark. Poshmark was like the lowest one for me. I would get maybe 1 sale a week, maybe on Poshmark, but not that many. So eBay and Etsy for sure. Most of the time eBay, and then Etsy in the fourth quarter, Etsy usually ratchets up. And I have a link down below if you're wanting to get started on Etsy, where it gives you 40 free listings to start. Because the way Etsy works is it's 20 cents when you're listing something, it's 20 cents per listing to get it up on their site. So this way it gives you 40 to start with for free, which is nice. And then you don't get charged again until it sells. Then you get the kind of like final value fees, but it's a lot more cut and dry than eBay. eBay's like, there's a fee for this, and then it's this, and then if it's this category, it's this, and da 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 da, right? Like, oh, right? It can make you dizzy. But for Etsy, for sure. And I actually want to do another how to get started on Etsy, because I think more people are shopping there. I've been definitely getting more sales lately there, so that's been nice for sure. And yeah, absolutely. Oh, hello, Texas Cash. Hello. Okay, making sure I've got everything, and then we'll move on to number 4. Use a consignment store a couple times. Recently bought some. Oh yeah, I have a sonic cleaner somewhere. It's somewhere, but I don't use it very often. And have I ever had any bad experiences on eBay? Oh yeah, of course. Just people returning. I mean, returns don't bother me, but like returning something broken or used, or saying they didn't get it. I had that happen recently where somebody, but that was on Etsy. Somebody sent me a message and was like, I want a refund. I didn't get my item. And I went to look and I was like, well, it says you received your item, yesterday. Maybe it was delivered and you didn't pick it up yet. And then I never heard again, from that person. So I'm guessing that let's see. I'm on eBay getting consistent sales, I'm still struggling to get 10 to 20 sales a day. No, I have 1,000 plus listings and I don't get 10 to 20 sales a day. I think it just there's a lot to do with what you're listing. Do people want it? Are people finding it? And yeah, I mean, mostly I think it's like, do people want what you got is the big part of it. So, I mean, I don't know what you sell. So there's that as well. And then pricing, there's a lot that goes into it. Like, is it priced right? Are the photo, there's just like a lot. Yeah. Right. Me either. I've got at least 1,000 things up on my eBay store, Etsy stores. But I think also just having multiple platforms. And I tried when I shared this yesterday too. When we first moved here, I tried getting back up on all the platforms, and because I'm doing this by myself now, like, I couldn't keep up. So I just on eBay or Etsy. Real pearls. Yeah. So as far as real pearls, and this does come back into, I do the tooth thing. I know some people are like, don't rub them on your teeth. But that's the quickest and easiest way for me to know if when you rub them on your teeth, if it's like, for me, like sand like fingernails on the chalkboard, because it feels like gritty sand you're rubbing on your teeth. And I know there's like a way you can rub them together and it's supposed to blah, 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 but I can't tell for that. And like, if you're wanting to know, like if it's a natural pearl, like it's plucked from the sea out of an oyster, you have to get it x-rayed because it's really hard. Now with culture, like pearls where they put the sand or whatever, how they do it, they put it in and then it grows on there. Yeah, there's just different ways that they do it. Sometimes they're thicker than others. Sometimes they're better quality. A lot of I keep saying, I don't know what's up with that. I did this before. I'll look at the hole and around the hole where it's been drilled. So get your loop and look around that spot. So like if it's all chipping off around that, you can see pretty quickly like, oh, this is not like a pearl, because it's all whatever coating they have on there is like chipping off away from the bead underneath, if that makes sense, right? eBay really wants you to promote, even if it's slow. I have done that. I was doing that for a while there. I think it was like 3% or something like that. I didn't notice that much of a difference, so I kind of quit doing it. Some people swear by it on promoting things, but I did it for a couple months where I was putting it at the lowest amount, where it was like 3% or something that they would let me do. But I didn't notice very much of a difference in my sales. So I just quit. I mean, not that it takes that long to click that little button, but I'm like, for me, I'm like, keep it moving, lady, keep it moving. Um, but yeah, it's worth trying. I mean, I would say try it for like a month, see if you notice like any kind of shift, and then, or see if like, oh, this sold under, but how would you know if it sold under promoted? They'll just say. That's the thing. It's like, if you have all your stuff promoted and then, I don't know, maybe this is conspiracy theories. This is just another way for eBay to make a little more money. I don't know. So I didn't notice much of a sale, a difference. Let's see. I started a store. I'm not getting a lot of sales. Do you think if I upgrade to eBay? I don't think that it would help. If so you're selling on eBay or you have a store? Because as far as a store, having an eBay store goes, I only did it once I got to a certain level. A certain level of number of items where I would see a break for myself as far as it's going to be a little cheaper. Move across bottom of tooth. You're going to, like you're going to bite it. It's so gritty and I just can't, even just talking about it. It's like, you didn't, but I don't stop promoting. Yeah, I didn't stop. The promoting of the other ones. I just quit my new ones. Yeah. Do they tell you? Yeah, they'll say like on your fees and stuff. Do they tell you if it sells under promote? Yeah, if it sells under promoted listing, they'll let you know because then they're going to take their 3%. So yeah, you don't get sales unless you do 20% promotion. Oh wow, yeah. I would honestly, again, I don't know what you sell, but maybe look at your starting price. I don't know. But yeah, like I said, a lot goes into that. I mean, it could have to, I don't know what your store looks like or if you've got what kind of customer reviews you've got. So that could affect things too. And there's so much that goes into it. Okay, let me go into number 4. Number 4 is the fourth mistake is that inaccurate or misleading description. So when you're writing your description for your piece, making sure that you don't just say, silver earrings, because it can be misleading if someone's like, well, you said they're silver. Oh, well, I meant silver in color, not like they're sterling silver. But so being really specific, especially with jewelry, because one, maybe the person is being just an honest, like, oh, I really thought you meant that. But sometimes people will like try to get you, especially unfortunately, there are some people that are in the jewelry realm, reseller jewelries, people that aren't always the kindest. And they want to make you feel bad if you're not doing it right, or they feel like they're running off the competition, or any of you guys that have been in any of these jewelry groups, you know what I'm talking about, where there's some people that get pretty ugly, and I don't know why. There's enough jewelry out there for everybody. And but they kind of go after people's stores if they make a mistake. I know, for me, like I had some buttons all those buttons that I got, and there are button people. This is like a whole nother world, y'all. And mostly with the political buttons. So I have these political buttons, and there were reproduction political buttons. And I, describe these political buttons like whatever. I'm trying to think of an Woodrow Wilson, let's say. And clearly it's a reproduction button. But because I put the dates in there and everything, describing it, la-di-da. But because I didn't put reproduction, even though I had the dates from when it was like manufactured, like I was getting messages regularly from people, and I mostly just ignored them because some of them were so ugly. They were just like, as if I were trying to deceive people. Like, how dare you try to sell this? And it's like misleading, blah, 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 blah. Like, clearly I'm not trying to mislead anybody, because let's say, truly though, they could have bought it and then gotten it and said like, item not as described or something like that, even though that's probably why they didn't, because it did say in the listing, like, but there are people, side note, that if you say, silver earrings, and you don't say like silver toned earrings, untested or what have you, that they'll buy it and then they'll like open demand a return and keep the earrings. And these people are out there. They have nothing better to do with their lives, I guess. But But for you, really like taking the time to say, okay, protect yourself. Silver tone, or if it does have a mark, let's say you don't have a testing kit yet, and you're like 925 is marked in there, but it's untested. So like make sure you cover yourself. If you're not 100% sure, you could say like, it's not magnetic, it's marked 925, but it's untested, right? Or if you tested it and it doesn't test as silver, say it's marked 925, not magnetic, doesn't test as silver, like all the things to just kind of cover your tail, right? Was it in the wrong? It wasn't in the wrong category. It was just like in pins and pinbacks. It wasn't, I think there was even a reproduction. There was a reproduction category too. Yeah. And even just that wasn't enough. But some of these, I say guys, because I have a feeling most of them were dudes. These, I don't know why, but they were barking up the wrong fish over here trying to bully me. I think eventually on a couple of them, I did end up finally, because I was like so sick of these messages from them. Like, and I'm the kind of person, unfortunately, that's like, if you tell me to do something, I don't want to do it, especially if I feel like you're trying to bully me into doing it. I've had some merch guys find that out a while back, a couple of years back, trying to bully me, thinking, oh, well, she's nice, we can walk all over her. And they found out the hard way. No, won't do it. So yeah, definitely an old man. You have folks trying to scam you with return. Yeah. I haven't had too many people do that, but I am like, yeah, return it if you want. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay. So we talked about the misleading, not that you're intentionally misleading anybody, but making sure. And when I say inaccurate descriptions too, I know as a beginning seller, I was so desperate to get sales. And I was totally guilty of it. I didn't disclose all the flaws. And because when I was very, very, very beginning, this is before I even quit teaching. I was still like, it was my last year teaching, and I just started kind of selling on Etsy a little bit. And oh my gosh, I just was like desperate to like get some sales under my belt. Right. And so it's a gamble. I mean, and it did come back to bite me. It made it really, really bad. But it's all a learning curve. So live and learn. Don't look at it like, oh my gosh, that's it. I'm done here. I can't do this anymore. La, 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 la. Just look at it like, okay, I learned a lesson there. Next time I'll know, do this and not this, and just move forward, take the lesson and continue forward, So let's see. Can 14 karat gold tarnish? I'd have to see it. I question is real because it's tarnished. So you say, yes, it can tarnish. This is a good question. Google to the rescue. You know what I like? ChatGPT. Do y'all ever play around with that? Let's ask. Can 14 karat gold? Oh, you know what? Let's do this even more fun. My ChatGPT on my phone can talk to us. Let's see if it'll talk to me today. Here we go. Question for ChatGPT. Oh no, hang on. I hit the wrong button. Oh, it's recording me talking. Here we go. Can 14 karat gold tarnish? It's thinking.
To prevent jewelry from tarnishing.
Nope, that's not what I said. Can 14 karat gold tarnish?
Gold itself doesn't tarnish easily because it's a noble metal. However, gold jewelry can tarnish if it contains other metals like copper or silver. These metals can oxidize over time, especially when...
Thank you. So maybe yes and no. The gold, no. Whatever it's mixed with, yes. I think that's what I got. Okay. How do you keep heavy earrings from dragging? You mean like, okay, my mind went right into the gutter. I'm just going to tell you this right up front. So when you say that, I'm going to need a little more details. All I got was like, do your ears hang low? Do they wobble to and fro? Because these earrings, I don't normally wear them, and they're driving me absolutely bananas. They are quite heavy, and I need more Details. When you say heavy earrings from dragging, like dragging your ears down, I would not wear them. I couldn't wear these all day. These would make me cuckoo. Okay, so the fifth tip or mistake to avoid is not researching pricing properly. And this can be whether you're overpricing or underpricing. So for myself, I tend to be on the higher end. However, my thought on this is on eBay, I have best offer. So that if the person likes the piece of jewelry, they can send an offer for it. And usually I don't mind accepting it. I'll check to see like what are prices looking like for this thing, and then I'll accept it or not. And then on Etsy, people can pay a higher, or they tend to be more willing to pay a higher price from what I've found. And the item, even though it's the same item, say it were these, not these, because I have to be vintage on Etsy, but I would list them as the same price. Now I've lost my train of thought. But anyway, people tend to spend a little bit more. So that being said, okay, I remember what I was going to say. There might be like 5 pairs of these earrings up on eBay. Pretend they're vintage. And then these are the only ones on Etsy. So if somebody's only shopping on Etsy and I don't like shopping on eBay, blah, and so they just go to Etsy and mine are the only ones there, well, they're going to be willing to spend that money to buy that one item that they found on Etsy versus having a choice if there's a mix of them. And then also pricing higher when you've got something really cool and there's nothing else like it. So I price higher on those as well. And then as far as pricing too low, I know as a new seller, that might be really tempting. And maybe it's a great way to start getting some feedback, because as a new seller, having customer reviews can really help boost your store. As far as when I'm looking at a store, I want to make sure that it's a established seller, somebody who knows what they're doing. And so I can see like wanting to, but I wouldn't lowball price really nice stuff. You know what I mean? That you can get a better price on. But then there's something that is, what's the word for it? Perceived value. That's what it's called. Look at me remembering words today. Oh, this is good. So when you're going to buy something and you've got these glasses and somebody has them for $7.99 and then somebody has them for $24.99, suddenly, $7.99 looks like they just grabbed them off the rack at Walgreens, at the pharmacy. And then versus, the $24.99, oh, it looks like there may be a little higher quality. So psychologically, my kid's trying to call me. I'm like, I told you I'm going live. There's a psychological thing where it's like, I'm going to spend the $24.99 because I bet they're it's a nicer quality, or like I'm going to buy a present for my friend and seriously, they're asking if they can eat my leftovers. Yeah, eat them. Yes. I had wings for lunch and they want my wings. Anyway, so let's say I'm going to go buy some lotion. I'm going to go buy something for my friend's birthday. And there's this thing, it's a box. And it's really cool. And there's one up that's like $4.99. And then there's the same box and it's up and it's $20. And then it's like, which one do I buy for my friend? Oh, I'm not going to spend $4 on my friend. What am I, a cheapo? 20. Yeah. Okay. I can spend $20 now. This is not me talking because I'm like, it's the same freaking box and I can see that, but it's definitely a psychological thing that buyers go through, this perceived value. Now, I'm not that person. I will definitely buy something for at a garage sale for gifts if it's cool and amazing and whatnot. So there's definitely places, you can check and research pricing at. Yesterday I was sharing like how to find unlisted, pardon me, or unbranded jewelry, how to find prices and how to describe it and all of this. And it could be used for anything really. So if you're wanting to see Earlobe stretch. So you were asking about how the dragging, for the stretching earlobes. I don't know the answer to that, but I don't wear like heavy stuff. I really want to take these off now, but I feel like naked without earrings on. I do. I feel like I'm not complete. So I don't know about the earring stretch thing. I have some really nice clip-on alligator earrings that I really like, but they're so tight and I can't wear them. And then how do I clean or wash my jewelry before listing on eBay? For the most part, I will just use like a damp cloth, depending on what the piece is. Like say I got it in a jewelry jar, and sometimes those jewelry jars or jewelry bags, they come out and they're all like disgusting feeling. So I'll just take a damp cloth to them and just kind of wipe them down a little bit, not soaking wet or anything. I do have a like one of those ultrasonic cleaners, but I don't use it very often. And then you got to be careful with certain stones and things like that in the ultrasonic cleaners. But other than that, I don't do a whole lot unless there's visible like earring nastiness. Then I'm like, bring on the Clorox because I'm going to sanitize this with like, if I think the material won't be damaged by whatever I'm using. So I'll put that caveat on there because I know somebody will be like, that's the worst thing to use ever. Oh, is this for the earring drag? Tiny silicone backs work even if they're the kind like the little, you put them on the back of the earrings. I've had those on earrings, but then I'll forget that they're in there and I'll try to yank my earring out and I'm like, ow. So let's see. Oh, for the clip. Let's see. Was that everything? I was going to show you. I had all these like windows open. So I showed you the different marks. I showed you the Tiffany's. Okay, I think I did it. Yay, we did it. And then were there any other things that I wanted to check in with? Oh, monster backs. Okay, cool. I think I hit them all. So I have lots of videos covering a lot of these topics very specifically, but if there's anything else that you have questions about or would like a new updated video on, I can totally, I know that my Amber video needs to be reshot because I made that, a long time ago. So I'm sure that it's not the best quality. Anyway, so I hope you found this video helpful and you don't make these 5 mistakes, but if you do, just learn from it and move on. And you'll keep learning as you go, 100%, because there's always something new to learn. Always, always, always. And if you've got more things that I missed, then leave a comment for that as well, because I could definitely always learn more. So I hope you have a really great rest of your evening or day if you're watching this later, and I will talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.